Hi. So I'm sure you're wanting to ask, Harry, this isn't the video I was expecting today. I was anticipating the video where you announce how finished the capture game is. Well, it's funny how things turn out. This has kind of been nightmare week for working on it, and I'll go into more detail in the actual devlog which I'm going to write next week. But basically a whole lot of stuff broke, and then a whole lot of stuff got lost, and so I ended up being way further behind on it than I wanted to be by this point. Also, like, Charlie and I were finishing SMT5, so, you know, Anyway, for today's rushed out filler episode, I wanted to give you a part 2 to my plant watering video. Long-time users of the YouTube website will know that I set up a wireless system for watering my conifer tree using a button on my Stream Deck. It was pretty cool actually, it all worked, and it's like the first time I've ever built hardware, so it's pretty exciting. Having said that, since then there have been some developments where Sal is concerned. First, I decided I wanted to upgrade the system so that it didn't require my intervention at all. That's because I wanted to cannibalize the existing Raspberry Pi from the system so I can use it for other things, what with how hard it is to get them at the moment. So what I came up with in the end was to replace the Pi with a Raspberry Pi Pico, which is essentially just a microcontroller that's like the Pi, but without the actual, you know, computer element. That left the next question. How do we water the plant without needing to do any actual, you know, work? Well, my solution was to replace the me in the equation with a water moisture sensor. This is a spiky circuit board that goes into the soil of the plant and reads the current moisture level. This means that after running some maths that the moisture level is in a percentage form the system can understand, we can tell the microcontroller to start watering the plant. So after a lot of experimentation, I got that working. You might be wondering why there's no footage to prove that, and that's because about 2 days after the system went into operation, I came to the unfortunate conclusion that Sal was in fact dead. At that stage, the whole idea of making a follow-up video became, as Joey would say, a moo point. Besides, I was just starting to get distracted with the whole capture game idea, and there were other things I wanted to make anyway. So Sal sat pointlessly on my shelf, her soul, if such a thing exists, having long since wandered off, while I tried to figure out what to do with her. See, you can't just put plants in the regular waste bin because of all the dirt and that, so I figured I live right near the ocean. Why don't I just put the plant into the ocean? It's funny actually, because I think most people, normal people that is, sort of implicitly get that just dumping stuff in the ocean is a bad thing. Smooth Brain Harry though did not pick that up immediately, maybe because I was all, oh, plants are nature, therefore it's fine. And so in the run up to trying to shoot this thing, I made a bunch of calls to the Environment Agency and the Environmental Contact to the Council to double check whether in fact illegal dumping is against the law, and turns out yes, it in fact is. So, you know, there's that. But I also figured there's no point just illegally dumping if we can't also generate content out of it. So I went to Argos and I bought a boat. My game plan was this. Day 1 of filming, we take Sal to various fun British landmarks and hotspots and the like. We get up to various and sundry wacky hijinks, and then on day 2, we go out onto the ocean in our inflatable boat and throw Sal back into nature. We actually did go to the beach to film and everything. Here's a shot of me looking pensively out to sea at the prospect of all the illegal dumping we were going to do that day. So we got all of our land footage and that was all fine, but then the project ran aground. Literally. So we'd picked the right day weather-wise, clear skies, the ocean was about as calm as we could have reasonably expected, but in retrospect we made the truly grotesque decision to attempt it at low tide, like, you know, buffoons. The problem with that is that the distance between the water's surface and, like, the ground is about the length of my attention span while editing, which is, suffice to say, infinitesimal. This meant that as soon as we made any distance away from the shoreline, we got stopped almost immediately because the boat got stuck. This cut in multiple directions for the production, namely A, that we couldn't actually get out to sea in any meaningful way, and 2, it created some problems when the tide picked up. When I say problems, I mean problem, and when I say problem, I mean the boat filled with water immediately. We were stuck, the ocean was coming at us big time, and if you put 2 and 2 and 2 together, almost everything in the boat, including us, got soaked instantly. This was a particular issue because now the boat definitely wasn't going anywhere since it was half capsized at that stage. And to make matters worse, the Swiss roll I had on board for the Swiss roll scene, a critical juncture in the narrative, was completely waterlogged and inedible by even the most powerful of Reddit users. Also, some of the seawater had gotten to Sal's pot, meaning that if there was any hope she wasn't dead before, the sudden influx of salty water meant she absolutely was now. At that point, we decided to just cut our losses, but fate had one more cruel trick up its sleeve in so much as we couldn't get the boat to roll up after we deflated it. Cue me and Charlie walking through the streets of town with a crumpled up, unfurled inflatable boat, a dead plant, and a gross Swiss roll, both of us absolutely lousy with seawater. If you saw us that day, no, you didn't. In fact, it was so awkward that it meant the fact I was wearing the captain's hat I got was the least embarrassing thing about the whole situation. We then put the boat away in a cupboard and wisely agreed never to attempt this again. There the boat sits to this day. What's the moral of this story? Who cares? I should be clear that I was not actually going to put Sal into the ocean. We were going to do a bit where it looked like I was doing that, and then we slam cut to me just like dropping it in our bin in the kitchen or whatever. Don't dump stuff in the ocean. The environment is in a bad enough shape without you throwing copies of 1998's Grim Fandango for PC CD-ROM in the sea. Thanks for watching this badly drawn storytime video. I'll never do this again. Read the capture game. I'm going to make some more progress on it this weekend to get it to some level of functional so that people can play it. game. There are some cool new features I want to share that increase the level of capitalism in the game considerably, but I've decided it probably makes sense to roll it out in one video. I'll probably announce the link to the capture game before the devlog next Friday though, so make sure to follow me on Twitter so that you know when that happens. Oh, and also while you're doing that, make sure to